What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Deep Dig Sports Pod. I'm your host, Drew, with my other host right over there.
What's up? It's D. Good to see you again. Go ahead and hit that like button. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Go ahead and drop some comments. And if you are watching on YouTube, go ahead and hop on over. We do have an audio version on all platforms. So check that out.
Yeah, check the links in the description. How are we feeling on this Monday morning? 49ers are still in the tournament. They beat the Cowboys, who everyone said was real this year. We learned that was not true. How are we feeling?
Feeling pretty good. To be honest, it was a nail biter. It was a pretty good back and forth game. It really felt like at certain points, like, oh, is this going to be the season? Like, no, something has to happen. Something has to break. Like, there has to be a marquee play here. But it was a good defensive struggle on both parts. But 49ers get the dub. They move on to the Eagles, and it really feels like now it's again like just reloading for the next week. And again, what feels like we just came off of the biggest matchup of the year and now headed into the biggest matchup of the year.
Yeah, and we'll get into the Eagles matchup later in the week. So make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel because those will be YouTube exclusives. Right now, we're really just going to go over the Cowboys game. Right off the bat, my first thoughts. I know we're going to talk about Brock Purdy. We're going to talk about the quarterbacks, talk about the coaching. But what just clicked in my mind, what we were texting about during the game, the 49ers defense, Jimmy Ward had a hell of a game. Diamador Lenore had a good game. So this secondary really stepped up. I know we were talking last week about Jimmy Ward being someone who's not going to come back to San Francisco because of his price tag, and really Tashawn Gibson is in his position. But how'd you feel about his play in the nickel on that game?
Yeah, so I think this was just kind of the make right. This has been a season of make right. This was a game of make rights. So Jimmy Ward has a very bad play last week. He comes back and plays amazing, which I kind of knew he would. He looked awesome at the nickel. I think that, Ray had his fumble, then he turns around the next return and then takes it 50 yards. So this is just a team that's very resilient. And I think that, again, starts at the top with the coaches. And I think you just kind of see this attitude of, fuck it, like we'll move on, not like completely like let's forget about it, but it's like forgive and let's move forward. Like we are at point A, we need to make it to point B. Let's go ahead and just turn it on. And so you see that with all these players. And Jimmy Ward's a guy who really believes in himself. And he's someone who has played it, on this team for 10 years. So he's not going to be shaken by one bad game or not even a bad game, one bad play. He came ready to play. Diamador Lenore looked awesome. Talanoa Funga actually had a pretty good game too. Dre Greenlaw, again, make right. He had a mistake. He hit a late hit, but he makes up for it. So just one of those things, you feel really, really good about this defense, and you know that eventually things are going to kind of even out as far as the bad plays.
Yeah, you start to kind of think that this team has something special in it, and that special mentality of, hey, bad play just happened, but we're still going to win the game because of that Ray play. Our special teams, honestly, coverage, the kick coverage team hasn't been great this season, but yeah, despite that Ray fumble, some bad kick coverages, like this team just bounces back and they're not really fazed by it. And you parallel that with Dallas. I mean, their kicker can't even kick a extra point without the whole team like freaking out. So yeah, really solid performance. Jimmy Ward made me really happy because I think he should get paid a couple million this offseason. And I don't think it's going to be with the 49ers because of the position. Unless like Tashawn Gibson goes somewhere different, then, let's bring Jimmy back for that safety position. But yeah, we got a lot of guys who can fill that nickel spot potentially next year. So something we'll cover in the offseason, something we'll look at. You want to talk quarterbacks? We got a rookie quarterback to talk about here, Mr. Brock Purdy.
Let's hop into it.
What would you like categorize Dak's performance in this game and then Brock Purdy's performance in this game?
So I would go ahead and let's give Dak a D or like a D minus. He had two costly picks that turned into 10 points. That's the difference between a dub and a loss. So he actively lost them this game. Brock Purdy is, again, it's a little bit harder to grade. I would give him like a B minus or a C plus in that range. He looked good. He was running for his life, though. I mean, that's not on him. Like, he may do with what he could. They had no running attack in the first half. I think 27 yards total, or yeah, amongst the rushing yards in that first half for the 49ers. So not really much to work with as far as that. So, but he ended up pulling out the win, did not, make mistakes. And that's ultimately the difference between him and Dak is Brock Purdy does have ice in his veins. Brock Purdy does seem like he is built for marquee plays. He is built for these clutch moments where Dak just comes up a little bit short every single time. And it just leaves you wanting a little bit more, especially from a guy who is getting paid very highly. So you're expecting more. We say this about Kyle Shanahan all the time. When they're bad, it's like, Kyle, you need to have a standard that's higher than most because you are considered one of the top 3 or 4 coaches. Same thing with Dak. Like, Dak, you get paid in the top 10. Like, you need to be top 10 level, and you're just not. Like, it's just disappointing for Cowboys fans. Obviously, it's awesome for 49er fans. We love it.
What I loved about Brock Purdy's performance is he never was phased by the plan. I know they said during the game that Juice was talking to him, saying that, hey, just be patient. It's just going to take a play, and like, we're going to get there. And you see him on the sideline, him and McCaffrey and Juice, like, going through the tablets. And you love to see that because we don't have that veteran quarterback on the sideline right now. I mean, I don't see Jimmy over there really drawing up stuff with Brock Purdy. So you love to see these veterans really take the rookie under the wing because I think they all do believe in him. And they're like, the way Brock Purdy's mind is for football, I know I heard Kyle Shanahan say that Purdy will come off the field and he'll talk to him and be like, well, why did you do that? And he'll say, like, here's what I'm thinking. And they'll really find that middle ground and like, okay, that makes sense that that's what you're trying to do. And it just didn't work. And I think he just thinks so similar to Kyle Shanahan and like everyone in this offense that it's really working. They're really able to communicate. And so when he's having this down game where nothing's really working and his athleticism isn't good enough to beat this Cowboys team, which was really telling, like, okay, this is how he was dominating the other teams. He can't do that against this team. Like, he can't run around forever and then like chuck the ball downfield and Kittle's open. But he's a rookie. If this is what he does, he makes a handful of plays in the pocket and hits the plays that he needs to win the game. Imagine when he becomes more and more comfortable in the pocket in a couple years. Like, this is the bare minimum of what he needed to do, and he's doing it. He doesn't have that part of his game yet to sit in the pocket against this team, against that defense, which is a really good defense, and make those plays to just dice people up yet. But imagine if he can develop into that. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah, definitely. But that's what it's all dependent on is, okay, is this the baseline? And now is there progression? So, yeah, if we get progression, he's going to be awesome. If you look at what Joe Burrow does in Cincinnati with no offensive line whatsoever, like his offensive line is getting beat like a drum every single play. But his decision-making process and his ability to read the defense after they completely switch once the ball is snapped it's crazy, dude. But like, we're not asking Brock Purdy to be that right now, but if he can get even 3/4 of that moving forward, it's going to be awesome. And that only comes with playing more in this spot, being in these positions, seeing more looks. So I'm excited for Brock Purdy because he does have that it factor. He has that, yeah, I'm going to do it mentality. And so it's awesome to see. And I think he is going to progress the more that he plays.
Yeah, and to look on the flip side to the Dallas Cowboys quarterback, Dak Prescott, I don't know what you guys are going to do with this guy. Trade Dak was trending on Twitter all last night, and he just signed this contract. He's getting paid a lot of money, and I don't see the tweet that I saw was like, that guy who put the poll on Instagram where it was like, "Who want me? Yes or no?" And it was
100% no.
100% no. They're like, "That's Dak Prescott."
Yeah, that is so.
But what team would even take on that contract or give up assets and take on that contract?
I think they should just fully lean into the defense, dude. They are going to have to give up. They're going to cut Ezekiel Elliott. Dalton Schultz this year was on the franchise tag. You're not going to tag him again, so you're going to lose that. Michael Gallup was a guy that a lot of people were clamoring to sign when he became a free agent, and the Cowboys ended up letting go of Amari Cooper and re-signing Michael Gallup. He doesn't look like a guy anymore. So it's like, what do you do on your offense? I think you got to stick with Dak, obviously, but you got to try to draft, solid wide receivers. You've got to really just hunker down on that D line or on that offensive line. You've got to make Tony Pollard the number one. I hope he ends up, I hope the injury is not too serious and he can bounce back early next season. So I think you just become what's like everyone is saying that on our comments about the Ravens, which is run game, defense. And you really make Dak a game manager. You can't be this run and gun, like we're going to throw it 60 times a game. You just can't do it with Dak Prescott. Like you need to limit the amount that he can fuck up your game because
it seems like that's what Jerry Jones wants this team to be, though, is like that explosive offense.
They can't. They just, with this quarterback, they cannot. He led the league in interceptions, only playing 12 games. Do you know how ridiculous that is? Only playing 12 games to lead the league in picks? Like, they're better off. If they want to do that, they should go out and sign Jameis Winston. At least he's a guy who can get the ball out there. If they're going to throw this many picks, fuck it. Why not? At least he has a better arm than Dak Prescott.
The 2 picks is what lost this game. And you could say, like, I saw someone on Twitter like, "Oh, Brock Purdy's so lucky. He almost threw a bunch of picks." Again, almost doesn't matter. Who gives a fuck? He won the game. He made the plays when he needed to. You could say also Dak Prescott almost threw a bunch of picks too. There was a handful of drops from other 49ers players on defense. And there was times where we didn't even get the pressure on him and he was throwing bad balls that were almost picked. So I just didn't, I don't know what's up with him. If he looked like a below average quarterback and Brock Purdy looked like an above average quarterback at worst. I mean, yeah, I'll give him like a C in this game because he didn't like ball out. He didn't like elevate to a level of like dominating the game or anything. But he didn't make mistakes. He didn't like really have any crazy negative plays. And he made key throws in the game that were clutch. Yeah. And Dak really, like, you get the ball with 3 minutes left and you don't do anything. And so you have to punt back and rely on this defense who's been like doing good all day. But man, you can only
do so much
exactly.
As a defense.
But what I worry about this Cowboys team, for them, you're going to rely on defense, but you're losing Dan Quinn, right? He has to get a head coaching job after this.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Well, I mean, let's get into the coaching now, because the coaching matchups were huge for this game, almost as big as the quarterback battle. You had Shanahan versus McCarthy, a rematch. And really, I think McCarthy was trying to earn some respect in this game for his legacy in Dallas. And then you had the defense coordinators who are interviewing for head coaching jobs in DeMeco and Dan Quinn. And I think this game, to me, if I'm a team looking for a head coach, pick one of these guys. Dan Quinn, I think, earned his way back. It's been kind of like the rumbling around the league for a couple seasons. Dan Quinn maybe being a head coach again. I think he earned it.
Oh, yeah, I think so. That defense, they did look awesome. I did not have that much respect for them going into this game. I knew that they were a solid defense, but I still thought Kyle Shanahan, he's going to be able to scheme this up. They're going to light this team up. It's going to be a firefight. It was not. It was a very defensive oriented battle, and you got to respect Dan Quinn for it. He coached the shit out of this side of the ball. I would be very inclined to have him hired as a head coach for any of these vacancies. I could see him for the Cardinals being a very like hard nosed, like, hey, Kyler, like we need to do this is what we're gonna need. And I know because I've been around, so you need to listen to me. You need to trust me. I can see that. I could see him going to the Broncos if they don't get Sean Payton. Like I see all very real possibilities. On the other side of the ball, Kyle Shanahan. It didn't really work the first half as far as rushing the ball. So then you have to pivot. You make those like this has been a team that makes very good second half adjustments. They do not win or lose in the first half. If you put up a good fight, they will adjust and they will find a way to eventually beat you. And that's what Kyle Shanahan did. He almost blew it in the first half with that clock management. But you know what? Like, this is kind of this shows you like, oh, like Brock Purdy can do whatever Jimmy Garoppolo can do. Like, no, like Jimmy Garoppolo cannot do what Brock Purdy does. Like Kyle was ready to pack it in. Brock Purdy made an awesome throw to Juwan Jennings that puts them into field goal range. And yeah, they almost screw it up, but he shouldn't have been in that situation because of the mismanagement of the clock. But they end up getting points on the board at the end, and that's ultimately what counts. So yeah, you had that, but Kyle made really good adjustments in the second half. DeMeco looked awesome, and he got those 2 turnovers on Dak that ultimately led to 10 points. So good overall coaching as far as that. What are your thoughts on just those 3 guys? And we'll get into McCarthy after.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you heard my thoughts on Quinn. I think he put together a great game plan. On the other hand, though, DeMeco put together an equally impressive game plan, if not more impressive. The way he had this secondary covering and really shutting down the passing game, and then the linebackers for San Francisco are insane, man. They are so fast. Greenlaw, Warner, and Aziz Al-Shair. I hate that we're gonna lose Shair probably, but dude, that guy fits in perfect with this team. Greenlaw's flying around the ball. Nick Bosa didn't have like the crazy stats, but I feel like you feel his impact still in the game, and the rest of the D-line like feeds off that and eats. Kyle Shanahan, the first half was a little shaky because we couldn't run the ball. This defense was doing really good, and Brock Purdy, he's trying to do his thing where he runs around and like tries to find pockets to throw the ball, and he just couldn't. It wasn't working, which makes the second half even more impressive because we did scheme a couple plays where Brock Purdy could throw it downfield, which is like the difference between him and Jimmy. Like Kyle Shanahan would be calling screens in those situations. Instead, Brock Purdy can hit one throw on a drive and then they'll run the ball. They can run the ball 9 times, throw it once, get 30 yards, and then run the ball again. So that's why I'm thinking Brock Purdy and Kyle is a better fit. And then I don't know if you'd agree with this, but I feel like there's a lot of teams where you get in this situation late, it's close, and you're like, hey, I want to force feed the ball to my best players. Like I think other coaches would be like, well, let's make sure we give Debo the ball here. Let's make sure we try to throw it to Ayuk. But Kyle in the end was like, I'm going to give the ball to my backup running back 20 times in a row. And it worked. Because I think the situation, the matchups, and the way that the team was rolling, he just saw that and was like, well, look, Elijah Mitchell's running hard right now and it's working. We're going to stick with that and you guys better stop it because I'm not going to, if you guys stop it, then I'll switch it up. But they could never stop it.
Yeah. And I mean, just to kind of, where Kyle Shanahan shined with Brock Purdy is in those clutch moments. Where the defense shined was in those clutch moments when they needed to make a play, they made a play, which is pretty weird because if you think about like Mike McCarthy, and he historically has not like with the Dallas Cowboys, at least the teams have not been good in the clutch moments. The teams have not been good when needed. When it's bend or break, usually they'll break. So we've seen that again with the Cowboys getting the ball. Dak almost gets sacked for a safety. Eric Armstead lets him go because he doesn't want a roughing the passer call. They go 3 and out. Oh, well, before that, they Dak almost throws a pick 6 to Dre Greenlaw. Then they go 3 and out. They punt it. They give back this. Dalton Schultz just nonchalantly strolls out of bounds without catching the ball, without getting both feet in, and they have to run that stupid play at the end. So it was just like a culmination of like, hey, they got not one, they got 2 attempts to really make right. It was like, when you're playing beer pong and you get your redemption, like he literally got a redemption drive and they could not capitalize on it. And it's so weird that they cannot get over this hump to win a game. Like they just cannot, like, I don't know what it is as far as clutch moments. They just can't do it. They're physically incapable.
Well, speaking of that final drive, I think they just look so defeated that they know they can't win the game. Now seeing all this, I know we said before the playoffs, it was a possibility, even though Jerry Jones said he was going to keep McCarthy. Do you think it's now on the table to fire him and try to get Sean Payton?
I think it's so weird. I think you have to almost semi-interview Sean Payton before you fire McCarthy, it's kind of fucked up. But like that's what you have to kind of do to, like, I guarantee you Jerry Jones got on the phone with Sean Payton or Sean Payton's representatives and we're like, hey, we're interested. Would we have a shot in this sweepstakes? Because you cannot let go of Mike McCarthy after he's taken you to the playoffs twice and then strike out on Sean. And then who are you going to go get? Like, what other coaching candidate do you go out and would you want DeMeco Ryans? Would you be like, hey, you know what? You beat us. Come over here. That'd be pretty fucking cool.
Or would Dan Quinn shift over to the head coaching position?
I don't know about
ready to commit to Kellen Moore.
No, I think Kellen Moore's stock has dropped greatly since, the last few years. Like, you've seen just dumb mistakes, and I don't know if it's because, like, Mike McCarthy's like, no, we're going to do this, or if Kellen Moore is like, hey, I want to get creative. Let's do these different things. I think it'll work. And McCarthy's like, yeah, fuck it. You're going to get blamed anyways.
Yeah. I mean, before we wrap up this part of it, what did you think was supposed to happen on that final play?
I think it was going to be a bunch of laterals. So, like, what I think was going to happen is it was the slant. Ezekiel Elliott was not supposed to get blown up, but he was supposed to come behind that slant and get lateral to him while there was blockers, and he was going to stroll into the end zone. If that's how, like, what I was going to, like, draw up as, like, yeah, just do it. But that's not obviously what happened. Like, because it was the quick slant. I think it was only like 2 or 3 yards off the line. I think Zeke was supposed to, once, because he's ineligible, he can't go downfield. Once they throw that pass, he was going to come behind that slant. They were going to lateral it to him, and then he was going to have some blocking supposedly, and then go through.
I don't see how that would work, but I think what I saw is you basically split up the offensive line on each side. Only half of them can go downfield before it's thrown because of the eligibility. You don't want linemen downfield. So you saw the right side of the field. They all just stood there, which made it look bad because then people were like, they're just all standing around. And then the left side, you saw them, even though they could leave the line of scrimmage, they were kind of standing around also. And then you had the slant. The guy who ran the slant was the only guy that was running on the play.
Yeah.
So I think if Dak would have looked more to his left, there was that guy Turpin right there standing behind all the other linemen standing around. And I think if he hits that as a screen, they have a chance to have some blocking going up the sideline and maybe making a play there. I mean, I just don't like that play design. I don't know why you throw it in the middle of the field where literally everyone is and there's no blockers in front of him. I don't know if the blockers were supposed to keep going to like spread out in front of him and there wasn't time.
It was stupid.
If you go back and look, I think if he throws it to like Turpin, I think it was, and it's like a screen, there is blockers. And then maybe you get into the pitch game, but Either way, it was a ridiculous call. Let's put Ezekiel Elliott. If anything on your play sheet is put your running back at center, you deserve to be fired.
Yeah, it's an L moment. It beats last year's dumb calls. So good job, Cowboys.
Did you want to wrap it up here?
I could go a few more minutes. Do you want to touch on any of the skill players?
Yeah, I think McCaffrey for sure going forward is something to watch because he was his ankle, his calf, something.
I'm not really sure. I know they were working it out, like trying to get him a little bit loose. He did end up going in on like passing downs, which is good to see. But I mean, we'll see how he ends up the rest of this week. Because I mean, you're in the game, you have adrenaline going, but once you get out of that, it could tighten up like a, you know what I mean?
Yeah, which I mean, we seen today. Elijah Mitchell is basically a starting running back, so he's not McCaffrey, but we should be pretty solid against the Eagles with an Elijah Mitchell and some other backup running backs rotating in. But something we'll keep an update on. Maybe we'll touch base on it later in the week. Is the McCaffrey injury, and then George Kittle. I think he had the play of the game. He had the game-changing play that really, I think, made the 49ers believe, okay, now we're in control. We're winning this game.
It was awesome to see. And he's just a guy who he will spend the entire game doing what you ask him to do, which is, hey, we need you to chip on Micah. Hey, we need you to block because we're going to run it 40 plus times. Hey, like, we got you. Like, but when it comes time, he really does want to be that guy who just like, let me do this for you guys. Let me go ahead and make this clutch catch. After this catch, good luck trying to catch me because it's going to be tough. And you could see how badly he wanted it. It bounced off his hands like, what, 3 times? It was crazy. What a crazy catch. And he deserved to make that play. It was awesome.
Yeah, and he made a couple other catches late in the game that were pretty good. And he had he drew that defensive holding call that really made it from like a 4th down to a 1st down.
Oh, yeah.
So a couple big plays from Kittle. As far as the other guys, Debo and Ayuk, did we really see too much? I think it was tough because of that defense.
Dude, Brock Purdy was running for his life. It was crazy. They had to McGlinchey like is now a meme. He was literally just lift judo thrown by Micah Parsons. It was crazy. Burford got subbed out for Brunskill. So they went to defensive line for the Cowboys. They went to town on them. It's going to be interesting to see how they hold up against the Eagles moving forward. But hopefully, they game plan a little bit better for this Eagles team, knowing that they have some guys that can really, really get after it. Not just one, but they have multiple. It's almost kind of looking in the mirror like, hey, they got the same thing that we do. So it's going to be interesting to see. I think that there is going to be a little bit more of the screen game. There is going to be a little bit more quick slants and quick outs to look out for. But yeah.
All right, well, that's all we got for today. Make sure you guys subscribe because we're going to be dropping our preview to the Eagles game later in this week. We're going to be dropping a bunch of videos every day. So make sure you subscribe, like, and comment.
All right, take it easy.